iPadOS 26 is coming soon. However, I've got my hands on this, the development beta version of it. And in this video, we're going to take a first look and go through all of, or at least most of, the cool new features that we have here in iPadOS 26. Hi, my name is Pete Johns. Welcome to Studio Live. Today, if it's your first time here, my goal around here is to help you create, record, and release your best music. We do that through tutorials and tips and tricks and live streams, and this weekly podcast show that's less of a podcast and more of a, what does Pete want to talk about this week? And this week, I want to talk all about iPadOS 26 because it's just been announced at WWDC by Apple, and it's got some cool new things in here. We're going to break down 10 of them, and there's a heap more under the hood as well. If you're wondering, can I get this right now? Well, you can, but you do need to be part of the development team or the development plan. You can do that by signing up at the Apple developer website, and then you can install it. However, let me give you this caveat, this warning right up front. Please only do this if you are 100% confident and comfortable that you won't have anything important to do with your device during this time. The main reason being that this is very much a development beta version. There are bugs, there are things that aren't going to be in the final version, there's things that are still being ironed out, and while it's cool, as you can see here, that we can move our windows around and do all the cool stuff, it won't be perfect all the time. So as we always say, if you're working on a big project, if you're in the middle of something, there's not enough here for you to bother making sure that you update straight away. There will be a public beta version in July, and then there will be the full release happening probably in September. That's when we usually see all the software updates. We've also got iOS updates. We've also got macOS updates. Basically, all of the range of Apple stuff has been updated, and it's all been updated to version 26. You might be thinking, what happened to 19, Johns? I thought we were on 18 and we were going to 19. Well, no, Apple have jumped in here and they've changed everything. They've changed it all up. They've made all of their versions 26, which makes things a little easier because before, every different thing was on a different number. So you can go to the website here on Apple and you can look at all of the information about it, but we're going to dive into it right here now. I'm just going to show you this here at the bottom because this is something, if you want to take a snapshot right now or hit pause, that'll tell you if your iPad is indeed compatible. You will need an iPad that's been pretty much in the last 5 to 6 years. So we're talking about the A12, which is the one I'm using here, the 2020 iPad Pro, the iPad A16 or an 8th generation or later, an iPad mini 5th generation or later. So you will need a little bit of horsepower to run this. And also, caveat, we're not talking about a lot of the Apple Intelligence stuff here. They have enhanced Apple Intelligence. There are some changes coming to that. Majority of that's on iOS and macOS, a little bit over to iPadOS, but I'm not running something that can actually take advantage of that because my iPad here, at least my second iPad, doesn't have an M series processor. It's the last of the A12 processor iPad Pros. So now that we've got all of that out of the way in the preamble, let's dive in and check out what is indeed new here. Now, the first thing that you're going to notice here, as we try to remember how to minimize all these things, I'm just getting used to this. I've literally had this for 2 days, so you'll have to bear with me. And I don't actually have 26 messages before someone tells me that. This is like my development machine. So you can see here, we've got changes here. This new glass, liquid glass is what they call it. And you can see it looks kind of schmick. It's a new redesign. And a lot of people are saying, why do we need a new redesign? Because we do. About every 10 years, Apple do this. Remember iOS 7? Yeah, this is that again. So there's some options in here. You can change your lock screen. There's some options on that with some cool things. Won't cover that in detail here. You can also edit. If we tap and hold on here, you can go into wiggle mode, getting wiggy with it, and tap on the edit button, and you can edit. You can customize your screen here. So the new thing here, which I don't know how many people are going to get excited about, is your clear icons. So you can jump in here and change this to clear mode. You can go to tinted mode, which we had in the previous version, make all your icons a different color. And you can see there that this is taking a little while to update. Again, you're going to find this. There you go. It gets there. You're going to find that things are a bit slower, especially on older iPads if you're doing this stuff. But the clear mode, I mean, maybe you like this. Maybe you like having see-through icons. Not all of them will look see-through. Your folders are, and some of your native Apple apps look a bit better. But I don't know. It's not for me, but if it's for you, it's there. We also have the customizable widgets, which we've had in previous versions as well. For me, I tend to live in default land. I'm a very default kind of guy, so I live in default land. You've also got, so that's number one thing, is the liquid glass. So the overall design of it, pretty cool, and it'll improve over time, but it will use a little bit more overheads. And if you're thinking accessibility here, you can turn all this off. So like most things with Apple, they offer it to you, but you can turn it off. Let's look at number two. That is the windowing system. So yes, we finally have windows here. So you might recall that in previous versions, we had the ability to do split view and we had the ability to do slide over. Well, now you've got complete control where you can change the size of all of your applications and you can actually drag them around. You can overlap them and you can move them about to your heart's content. You can also resize them. You can also do things like full screen. You've got your traffic lights in the top left here, so we can full screen an app like Logic Pro here. And if you come up here again, you tap on the traffic lights, you can minimize and even close your apps, which is kind of handy. Used to be really hard to know how to close an app. You had to do that flick up thing. Now it's a piece of cake. Let's find GarageBand, and I'll show you that some apps don't actually have the ability. So we've still got our search bar, our spotlight search. So there's GarageBand. Some apps only have certain levels that you can go to. So if we take GarageBand, for example, here, we can only make it that small, because otherwise it just becomes non-functional. So not everything will be completely changeable to every single size, such as things like GarageBand here. You've also probably noticed that you've got menu bars up the top. So you've actually got the ability to do cool things like go directly to your GarageBand settings, which will open the settings app and take you into GarageBand settings. So for those that said, why do I need menu bars? I'm on an iPad. Shouldn't it all just be buttons? I kind of don't hate that we have the menu bars that we can go to. And then closing things. I'm in love with closing things by hitting that button. You can even hold down on these traffic lights and tile things. So we can say, let's bring this one over to the left, and it's going to go over and take up that part of the screen. This doesn't work so great with this. Let's show you something that works better with, which is things like Logic Pro, because this is completely movable and resizable. In fact, we'll open up a couple of things here once this actually decides to open. The beauty of doing a live to tape demo, sometimes we just have to wait around and be a bit patient, but that's okay. So we will now grab this in the bottom right corner and move it over here. And then let's go back down to our dock down here. Let's open the Files app, and here's something that you might want to do quite often. And now if we just tap this one, we can say, let's just tile these up. So it'll just put one on top of the other. Or we can go to our traffic lights again and say, actually, we want this one over onto the left, and it will bring that there. We can do this one here. That one goes to the right. There you go. So you can tile things. You can move your windows around. There's a whole lot of flexibility when it comes to your new windowing system. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Little of both? Yeah, that's me. And in Logic Pro here, your menus is a bit weird because all you've got is all of your shortcut options. You don't really have anything else but your shortcuts there in the Logic Pro. So everything will vary. And again, I'll mention this a few times, but keep in mind that this is not the final version. This is an early development beta version, which is why I'm tapping on these traffic lights and nothing's happening. There you go. That got rid of it there. Number 3. You can use your phone here. So if you've ever been really thinking to yourself, when I'm doing productive work on my iPad, when I'm making music, you know what I'd love? To be able to be interrupted by messages and phone calls more easily. Well, now you can. I mean, I say that flippantly, but it's actually kind of cool. Let's say that you're out and about and you've only got your iPad. Well, yeah, now you can actually use it as your phone as well. So it will make and receive phone calls, and it'll link in with your iPhone, and it'll do all those cool things. So if you've ever, and look, it's on your Mac now as well. You can't escape it. You can't escape your phone. So for those of you who are still making phone calls, which I think is only people over the age of 50 that actually like talking to people on the phone, the rest of us are just texting anyway. But you have the phone now if you need it. Let's close that. I don't like looking at it. Goodbye, phone. Number 4, this is a little bit cooler. This is the Preview app. Now, if you've used a Mac, you'll know Preview, and you'll probably love Preview because it's just a quick and simple way to open up images, to open up documents and PDFs and display them right here. So for instance, if you open something like just an image, so I open this image of myself, it'll open it here in the Preview app. You can see there I've already sort of started drawing all over it. You can come in here, you can add your markup, you can draw things, you can put horns on me. Those are great horns coming out of the side of my head there. Really cool. And it just makes things a lot easier. And when you open, you don't have to come into the Preview app, of course, to open things. You can open it from the actual Files app, and we'll talk about the Files app a little later because we got some new goodies in the Files app. But having the Preview app here is one of the best things about the Mac, is having Preview built in. You don't have to have things like Adobe Reader. This is a PDF document, for instance, and I can do all the same things here with this PDF document. I can edit it, I can change it, I can do what I want to do right here in the Preview app. So that's going to be super handy to have across the board, to have this on iPad as well as Mac. It just means that there's consistency across your different stuff. Oh, look, I'm getting used to it. I'm getting used to how to navigate around in here. It's interesting stuff. Let's talk about the thing that a lot of you have been waiting for, and that is an update to the Files app. Yeah, so I showed you this really briefly before. The Files app, we can move it around, we can resize it, we can do all the same things we can do with everything, but if we're here in full screen, full size, couple of major changes here. You can go with your standard sidebar view, or now you can tap and give a tabbed view, gives you more information, and you'll notice this list view is a lot more informative. When you're coming here and looking at all of your files, it's definitely easier to navigate around. It's more like a desktop, more like the Finder app than it is like the original Files app. And if you've been around for a while, you'll know that iOS or iPadOS 11 was the first one to introduce the Files app at all. Before that, we had zero file management, and it's taken them another 8, 9 versions and therefore years to actually improve the Files app here. So you can go with that. We've got menu bars, which is super handy. So if you come up here, check all these out. You've got your file settings. You've got all of these different options that we can go through. So if you can't work out how to do something, so if you're in here and you're like, I never remember how to do things, or you don't want to use like your double tap method, you can be selecting a file. And if you're more familiar with coming up to a file menu and you want to do a quick look, or you want to get info about it, you want to open it, and you can choose. Again, this is a bit of a hidden thing. I didn't actually mention this. It wasn't in my notes, but you can now open with, and you can set default. See how GarageBand is the default to open that with? You can set the default app to open stuff, which is great because we used to have to use things like the Opener app. It used to have separate apps just to open things because there was no way to open things directly, which was a bit weird. So you've got your menu items there. You've got some enhanced list views over here. So we've got the icons, we've got the list, we've got the columns view, which is similar to what we had before. But if you like more of a, if you're old school and you like the Norton Commander kind of style here, you can load things up sideways if you like doing things more. If your brain's more columny, or if you're more listy, or if you like your icons so you can see things out like that. So you've got a bunch of different options in there. You can also customize things a little bit more. So you can actually color your folders. Now, it took me a while to work this out. It seems at this point, at least, that the way you color your folders is to tag them. So it's not that different, but instead of just having the dot there, now you actually get a colored folder. Let's show you this now. If I select this one, and if I double tap, so 2 fingers on the screen or on my tap there, and we come down here to customize folder and tags, we can actually tag this. And if we tag this as, well, let's just say in progress, even though it doesn't really make sense for this, and come out of there, it's got the yellow dot there. And okay, I thought it would change the color of the folder. Maybe it doesn't because it's already a downloads folder. Let's try it on one that's not. Let's go to this GarageBand Mac folder and do this. Once again, this is very much a beta, so keep that in mind. Let's make this red for the ideas. There you go, that's better. So it'll actually change those. So some of them, I guess it won't change because they're already there. And you can, so if this GarageBand Mac, which is my made up one, it doesn't have the little GarageBand logo on there because it's not a system folder. But what I can do here is come in here and I can use emoji, and I can use the guitar emoji, which I handily have already set there. Can tap guitar and, oh, it did add it, and then it went away. Oh, I think it's there. Yep, there it is. It's added the guitar emoji on my GarageBand Mac folder. So just a few cool little things that you can do there. You can also add your folders to the dock down here. So if there's a folder you're using all the time, so say I'm using my, can we do the GarageBand? Let's double tap this one. No, you can favorite that, but we can't add it to the dock. So some folders won't let you, but say you wanted to add this GarageBand Mac folder to my dock, double tap, add to dock. And now it's going to put it on me dock down here, and it does this very weird looking pushing thing. Oh, no, it's taken us there. There must have been too many files in there. If there's a smaller number of files, it does that weird cascadey thing out of there. When you tap on it, it goes whoop, but it's not doing that for now. And you can see how quickly you get a lot of things open. By the way, if you're wondering how many windows you can have on your screen at once, 12. And then as soon as you've got 12, it'll keep the other things open, but it will put them in the background. So yeah, that's kind of cool. I don't know that I'd ever want 12 things. I already am getting a little bit overwhelmed just having this many things open here. And see, I'm in Logic Pro, and I'm trying to get back to files. There we go, so that I can close out of that one. All right, let's maximize this one. I got to admit, I do come back to just having things in full screen mode a lot of the time because it does get a little overwhelming, I got to tell you. The screenshots. So if you're like me and you use screenshots a lot, so when I'm navigating and trolling around and looking for different things, I'll often use the screenshot. And if you don't know, to take a screenshot, you tap on the top button and the volume up button. If we do that here now, it'll take a screenshot. If we tap on that one, there's this new screenshot mode. It's just got some enhanced features here. You can very quickly, as you can see here, you can trim it and pull out just the piece of information you want. You can hit the share button in the top there. You can even use, is that the visual intelligence? No, that's removing those weird lines around the outside. That's okay. You can annotate it quickly, so you can start drawing on it if you want to. If you've got things that you want to highlight, you can draw around and do other things like that. You can draw a bum like I did there, and then you can quickly share it and go to your share sheet from here. You can use your zoom over here. I think that's your zoom. No, that's something else, and it doesn't seem to do anything. Did I mention I've been using this for 2 days? So yeah, but it is handy if you do lots of screenshotting. And in the iOS version, that's why I was looking for the visual intelligence. You can now use visual intelligence if you've got the right device, if you take a screenshot on your phone. So instead of just the camera, you know that thing where you point at something and say what car this is, you can now take screenshot and go, where I buy this suit. And they're like, you only wear black t-shirts. You don't need to buy a suit, Johnson. You're like, you're right, but you didn't have to say it like that. You could have been a little nicer about things. Yeah. All right, we're about halfway through here. If you're enjoying this, if you're liking having this sneak peek into the world, into the weird and wacky world of iPadOS 26, please hit the like button, do all the YouTube things, because I would do them if I was watching you. Let's jump into the Games app. So we've got a brand new app called the Games app. Is this really related to creating? Well, no, except that I don't know about you, but I need some time out. I need a break at times. So firing up the Games app is something that I'll definitely be doing. You know, when you're in the midst of that big mix or that master and nothing's coming together and you just need to take a break, well, now you have this. And you can see here it puts all of your games, my Ballatro, my Angry Birds, and my New Star Soccer, all into one place. So it's like Apple Arcade. If Apple Arcade and Game Center had a bebe, this would be the bebe. This would be what it would be like. So you can come in here and look, it's a little clunky on this particular model that I'm using, my A12. And again, it's pretty new to this as well. But you can play games together, you can share high scores, you can do all that sort of stuff. And hey, I don't know when I'd do this instead of just, searching out the game that I want to play instead. But it's an option. And it exists, so I thought I'd mention it. Another new app, or newish, because it's already been on iOS for the longest time, is the Journal app. But now, if you've got an Apple Pencil and a compatible iPad, you can use that. I just went back to games, didn't I? Let's try that again. Another app that you can use, and let's go this way this time. There it is, little butterfly, is your Journal app. And again, you might be asking, what's journaling got to do with writing music and creating music? Well, kind of everything. because mindfulness is important. Sometimes when you journal every day, you can start generating ideas, you can jot down things, and a lot of songwriting is about your experiences. So, starting a journal, if you've never journaled before and you want to have it all in one place, the journaling app here in iOS is pretty good. And being Apple, everything's pretty secure. So it does keep things nice and it's locked down, end-to-end encrypted, secure, meaning that no one can read your journal, not even Apple. If you've ever wondered why end-to-end encryption is important, just look around in the world right now and see some of the data breaches and data leaks and misuse of personal data, and then come back to me and tell me that end-to-end encryption, where not only can no one see it, the other end can't see it. So if someone comes to Apple and says, please disclose Pete Johns' journal, we think he's been saying mean things about the RIAA, then Apple can say, sorry, bro, I don't have it. Nobody has it. No one can get access to it except for you. So end-to-end encryption for the win. Multitasking. This is something that kind of slipped in at the end that was, it was cool, but people didn't really think about how good this will be for creators. So if you are a creator and you're rendering out like a really long audio file here in Logic Pro, in the past, you just had to sit here and watch it do it. Now, I don't have a long enough project file here to really do it with, because if I export this project, it'll take no time. But what I do have is LumaFusion. So I have my video editing app, which is LumaFusion. If you want to learn how to use LumaFusion, there's videos here on the channel all about it. It is a very affordable but super powerful video editor. And you can see here, if you've been watching the videos during the week about all of these features, here's one I prepared earlier. You might have already seen this one. So, at the risk of being all Inception-y, let's pretend that we're exporting this. We're going to export a movie. We're going to send it over to my photos. Let's make it maximum bitrate. Let's make it maximum resolution here at 4K. And let's hit the render button. Now, traditionally, I would have to sit here and watch this little clock hand spin until it was done. Here's the cool thing now. I can actually come out of here. I can move this window. I can chuck it over to the side. I can grab my Logic Pro. I can come back here and start doing things. And this is cool because what I normally do is I'm rendering out my video and I want to take some screenshots using the cool new screenshotting feature to show what I've actually done in the video. So I can now come in here, do my screenshots. I can open up my Files app. I can go to my notes. I can go to YouTube and start setting up the upload for it. You can do everything in the background and that will still continue going. Now, caveat, warning, it will slow down. So like anything, it's only got so much processing power. So if you leave it as the only thing running completely dedicated, it's going to render out that movie a lot quicker. But if you don't mind sacrificing a little bit of time, I haven't even looked at the LumaFusion things up here. This is pretty cool. You got lots of options here in LumaFusion. Sorry, I just got a bit distracted there. And I do love that all of these have access to their settings. So if something has settings that are outside of the app, you can actually use that one to open the settings app and take you straight there. Whereas before you had to A, know that it existed in your settings app, and B, then go and find it. Whereas now, you can just go straight out there. So we don't need to continue rendering that movie, but how cool is that? It just means that finally, the multitasking power, the promise of multitasking on an iPad, because let's be honest, your iPads for the last 5 years have had as much, if not more power, more processing power than your phones and your laptops and your desktop computers. However, till now, there really hasn't been anything that's been using that. Whereas now, you run an M4 iPad Pro, you can be rendering out in Final Cut or in LumaFusion. You can be, crunching some high-end audio. Let's say you recorded a podcast with multiple tracks and you've got to mix them all down. You can do all of that at once, and you can use the processing and multitasking power of your iPad to do that. I do like it when you go, see the glassy bit with the background there? That nice nighttime shot of the Adelaide skyline. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I'm just sort of I'm new to this stuff, so I'm enjoying the liquid glass. All right, let's finish up. Number 10 is the smallest, but for you and for me is probably the most important change coming to iPadOS 26. Here's the problem, right? With iOS and iPadOS in the past or the present, every time you plug in an audio device, it will make that the audio input and output. There was no way to say, this is the device, stick with this device. If I now, here in iPadOS 26, if I swipe down from the top right corner and I come over here to the now playing, I can tap on my audio device and check this out. I can be on my Steinberg UI22C. I can choose, however, to change back to my HDMI to USB adapter if I want to. Or I can go to my iPad speaker. Or I can change back to this. So it just means that there's no more of that hassle. You plug in a new device or your device just decides to reset, it's going to be able to go back to that. Coupled with this is the fact that this is going to also work in your browser. Now, if you've ever tried to use something like StreamYard or Restream, any of those streaming platforms, quite often, and even your video conferencing, quite often what happens is even if you've got it set up with like a nice high quality microphone, a nice audio interface, the second that you go to actually use it, it will like revert back to the built-in mic. Have you ever had this happen to you where you're trying to stream, you've got everything set up, and boom, it goes back to the built-in mic? It's no bueno, it's no fun. So now you're going to be able to use higher quality audio devices and it won't change it. Like, I know this is a simple change. This should never have been a problem. You should always have been able to select your audio device. But the problem was that iPadOS and iOS was never built really to use anything but the built-in microphone or the headphone jack. And it's only been really since the addition of USB-C ports. I mean, we could do it a bit with Lightning, with the Lightning to USB 3 adapter, etc. But since USB is now standard across all Apple iPhones and iPads, yeah, we now have the ability to actually do that. So that is pretty cool. Now, it wouldn't be a top 10 without a bonus one, right? And your bonus here is that there's been some changes to the Apple Music app. Yeah, and one of the coolest ones is actually something called AutoMix. So I've been playing around with this. I've got a playlist here ready to go of some of my songs, and I've also added a Thomas Christ song in here as well. So what this will do is when we actually play a playlist, and I'll do this, I'll just turn the volume down and hit play on this one. Bring this up and make sure it's working, which it's not currently. Are you playing? Do I need to adjust my device? Did it change my devices on me? Is it making a liar of me? No, it reckons it's there. So it's not coming through here. One moment while I troubleshoot, and I'll be back with you in a jiff. Okay, troubleshooting complete. I think it's a copy protection thing. I don't think, because I'm screen recording this screen to show you, I don't think it's going to work. So you're going to have to use your imagination. That what happens, see, is when it gets to the end of a track, you won't be able to hear it here, but you'll be able to see it. And actually what I'll do is I'll cut in a video of how it works here. So as you saw there, when it gets to the end of one song, it will use AutoMix and it will tell you that it's mixing it between that song and another song. Now, sometimes it works seamlessly and fades it nicely. Sometimes it'll use some beat matching and tempo matching, which is kind of cool. Sometimes it doesn't work very well at all, but it tries, and it's kind of cool. Like, since way back in, I used to have the DJ apps, and since way back in the Winamp days, I'd always use the crossfade options to try and do this sort of stuff, and even try and do it manually. So it's kind of a fun thing to do. There's more things coming to Apple Music, like lyrics translation and the lyrics pronunciation for other languages, and there's a cool new sort of karaoke mode that we have. Logic has stopped. See, you know how I said, this is great. This is actually perfect. You know how I said before, don't download this, don't use this if you're working on real projects? This is why this is only on my secondary iPad and not on my daily driver, because it just crashed. Is it back and working? It is. So yeah, please don't install this if you're in the middle of a big project. You will find bugs. It's the very first development beta version. pretty good, but you're going to find bugs. So what was I saying? Yeah, there's also a karaoke version with tvOS, which looks pretty cool. Everyone stands around with their iPhones and sings into their iPhones and plays Apple Music on their TV. That's a cool thing as well. But yeah, there's some fun stuff in here. But is any of it a game changer? I would say that the biggest game-changing things, kind of in this order, are the ability to update and change your audio device. That's really handy. That's going to be super useful for us folks. The Files app stuff is pretty useful. The background processing app and multitasking is cool. And being able to window your app. So being able to have your app here and then open your Files app. And instead of having to always have everything full screen, where's my traffic lights? There they are. Instead of having to have everything full screen, you can just have things where you want them. So just the ability to use and work the way you want to work instead of the way Apple have always told you. So Apple said no colored folders, and now they've said colored folders. Apple said you can't use Windows on a iPad, and now they've added a windowing system. They said we were going to restrict multitasking to background processing. Now you can process and go and do something else. They've said, yeah, we're not going to put things like we have on the Mac, like the menu bars and like your traffic lights, and now they've added them. So if anything, this is the moment I think where Apple have listened to users and are actually starting to develop and make things the way that we want them to be. So that's probably the biggest positive and the biggest takeaway. Are there negatives to this? Not obvious ones. I guess the biggest negative, and especially if you're using older gear, is that we're continuing to see older iPads no longer being able to use the latest version. And it will slow you down. The good news though is you can turn all this off. So you can actually go into your settings. In fact, if we do that now, if we go into settings and the setting is in your multitasking and gestures setting, can we just search it out? It's always easier to search for your settings. Multitasking and gestures. So yeah, you can just go back to full screen. Or if you were really in love with Stage Manager, I don't know why you would have been, then you can go back to Stage Manager. But yeah, you don't have to turn this on. You can turn all of this sort of stuff off and just go back to using your iPad the way you've always used it, if that's what you prefer. And that flexibility, I think, is the way it should be. To be able to have these options if you want them for a power user that wants to be able to window stuff up, great. And if you don't want to use it, turn it off and pretend it never existed. But I'm more interested, as always, in what you think of this. Have you upgraded any of your devices? Please don't. Make sure it's not your daily driver device. Have you checked these out? Are you excited for any of these features? Will you be jumping in on day one? I'll leave you with the final warning, and that is that even when this is released, day one is usually a bit of an iffy day to update. I recommend, at very least, wait till 26.01 of a lot of these updates. You don't really have to be in a hurry. Let me be your guinea pig. Subscribe to the channel. I'll show you everything as soon as it's available. And 26.1, the .1 version is usually the most stable, because this, of all updates, is going to require developers. Yes, the people that make your apps and your plugins and all the other things you use have to spend the most time making sure they're compatible with all of these new features. And you know what happens? You know what happens when things are updated? Yeah, sometimes unintended consequences. So sometimes one thing is fixed and it breaks something else. It's just the reality of technology, and you know it, and I know it, and it will happen. So let me know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments of this video. Are you excited for the liquid glass experience that is iPadOS 26? And don't forget to hit the thumbs up button while you're down there. There's a heap of other videos down there. I'm going through all of the new things in detail. So I've already shown GarageBand and Logic Pro and LumaFusion. We're diving into the Files app. We're diving into all of the gestures and the multitasking and all of the windowing and stuff. So if you want to see all of this in more detail, then make sure you're subscribed and check out those videos in the playlist below. Hey, thanks for hanging out with me today. You know what we say at the end of each and every show around here? Be kind to yourself, folks. Be kind to others. Keep creating, and I'll see you next time.